Awesome, buckball season. So, Applejack, she like loves this. They have this sport they call buckball, right? And so, Rainbow Dash, Fluttershy, and Pinkie Pie, they get really, really, really good at buckball, and they have like this huge tournament with all the local events, all the local ponies, and they go to this tournament, super, super excited to play, to succeed, hopefully to have like the best time ever. Because like Pinkie Pie, Birdie, or Fluttershy, and Rainbow Dash, they have like a really, really great time just having fun. And so they're not like super competitive. They just kind of want to enjoy themselves. They get like a ton of joy and happiness from the game. And so, excuse me, because of that, they perform well, right? Because when you enjoy something, you want to do it more. When you want to do it more, practice more, and you enjoy it. So it's this compounding growth curve where they just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. And because of that, they get better and better and better at what they're doing, which is like super, super powerful, right? So you've got these two and they're loving what they're doing, and they need like somebody to help them. They have to carry this huge bucket, right? And then, what happens is they'll try to knock their ball into the enemies, and it's like they're over here, and they'll knock the ball into the bucket, but they need somebody to carry this bucket for them. And so that's where they spend like a lot of this episode, right? It's like that's because it's a very, very specialized position. They need a very, very like specialized worker, and so they have to go through a very detailed selection process to get that one guy they want right down in the middle of the field or whatever they're doing. Just because it's a tough process to get like the quote perfect guy on their side, and for them to really like figure out who the right person is, it's got to be like someone that performs. But more importantly, it needs to be somebody who cares, but not that much, right? Because if you care too much, then the performance, it just fades away over time, no matter how great you are at the beginning, which is just a shame, right? So that's really where the predicament comes in, and that's exactly sort of why Pinkie and Fluttershy decide that they are going to work with Snails. Snails from, you guys remember Snails from Simpsons Snails? She used to be Trixie's like super cool assistant, and so now you got Snails comes in, and he actually is like super, super good at levitating this basket and catching balls and just like extremely, extremely high quality talent. And what's awesome is like as you walk away and as you look back, Snails takes like, originally like he's very, very lost, and he having a very, 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 very difficult time figuring out, what he can do effectively and how he can be strong. But as he comes onto this team and he goes on to do the work with, Pinkie and Fluttershy, what he finds is like something that he's really, really, really good at that nobody else does well. And so he finds like his special thing. He finds his pizzazz. And because of that, he has a huge, 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 huge feeling of significance from what he's doing and what he sees others around him do, which is just so great for him, and it works out insanely well for like the people around him, right? So he goes out there, he's crushing it, they're doing a great job as a team, and that's when he realizes that yes, it's cool to have this specialized talent that might not be like the most applicable thing ever, but it has this great use for catching balls, right? And so all these people that have been trying, like fade away, because like so often like special talents and unique skills, they aren't like immediately the most insane and applicable things ever. But with Snails, Sips does not use don't worry about it, right? Because he knows that he's good at what he does, and when he's good at what he does, he doesn't really need to worry as much about what other people think. Because the only thing that matters is what the mastermind thinks and what his closest friends think, and the ones that he's working with on a constant basis, what they think. Because as soon as they're happy and they're successful, all of a sudden, as a team, right, they're moving towards success. They're moving towards the future. They can have huge, huge, huge impact solely based on their ability to stand tall and do the same thing over and over and over again, no matter where they're starting from, by just succeeding at the game, which is super, super cool. So that's kind of what we see in buckball season as they start to get really, really, really good. It's just this idea of like practice and practice and practice, and a little bit, like inherent natural skill and tendencies to really build up. So cool stuff. Awesome, so the faults in our cutie marks, this is awesome. So the CMC, they want to help this new Pegasus named Gabby. Gabby comes like to them, right? And she's heard about the cutie mark traders and how they're the most helpful people on the planet across the world at helping ponies get their cutie marks. And like the problem is, griffins don't usually have cutie marks. And so she feels like she's unable to determine what her special purpose is, and her role in life, and what she wants to do with the rest of her life. She just can't really figure it out. And so she's come and she's asked them to help her find her purpose, help her find a reason to live, and an overarching life goal to move towards. And it's tough because you can ask other people what to do. You can ask other people, how you should move forward, or what you should do with your life. But then, all of it goes away, and it fades down. It's up to her to figure out what she's passionate about. And so, the cutie mark crusaders, they want to help her do that, right? And so, first of all, they start out trying to figure out, if it's even possible for a griffin to get a cutie mark. And they go to Twilight, they do a bunch of research, and they try to figure out if it's ever happened before, which is really the wrong start, right? So if you're taking on any new task or anything that maybe isn't as well tested in the market, what you want to do is you want to enter a position, especially if you're going to do it anyway. These guys are going to work with Gabby for a little bit, no matter what. You want to start doing it with a position of total and complete confidence and faith that what you're doing can actually happen. Because as they start to do all this research about whether or not griffins can actually get their cutie marks, what it does is it sort of destroys a little bit of their faith and their confidence and their belief, because there's never been a history of this happening before. And so often, we'll get caught up in the facts that go against our arguments, the facts that stop us from succeeding, when the best must do is to just back off and say, look, what's really going on here, and what's the potential here? If there could be a huge level of success, then it doesn't matter if maybe there's no written record of this before, maybe you never heard of this before. We don't have to worry about that, because we know that this is possible. And so that's almost what the CMC do, but they do look at that history, which is awful, and it shows them this never happened before. So it kind of crushes their faith and belief. And it's up to Gabby to really push herself and pull herself through this barrier and have the success that she wants to get a cutie mark and then find the purpose in her life. She goes off and they do all these cutie mark crusader things and trying out a bunch of different activities and random things. And she's not instantly hooked on any of them. And she just wants to go back to be a griffin in home, right? And she doesn't really know what to do. What she does is she wants a cutie mark so bad. She has so much faith that she'll get a cutie mark that she makes a paper, cover or paper cutie mark and tapes it over her, both sides of her, right? And she just bakes it until she makes it, right? So she'll literally put this disguise on, right, and put this fake cutie mark around her, and she knows it's not real. CMC knows it's not real, but the image of it and just the idea of faking turns it into a reality for her, and it becomes real, right? She gets her fake cutie mark, and as soon as that happens, all of a sudden she has enough belief and enough faith that she feels like she's gonna accomplish this goal. And even though she might be sacrificing her ego sacrificing her looks and her quality, how fun she's having with her friends. What she's doing is she's drastically increasing the overarching quality of her life over time, because she's identifying, realistically, like an actual purpose for her life and what she's doing. And even if she doesn't have like a real cutie mark, she's making the sacrifice of looking like ridiculous and having like fake things taped onto her body, because she wants to like physically signify that she has a purpose and she has a feeling. And for her, she tapes on like this cutie mark that makes her look like she's part of the cutie mark shaders, and she's like, I'm the fourth one to help in Griffinstone. And like that's her purpose, and that's her calling, and that's how she feels. And she's gonna be able to help those in the world around them by doing exactly what they did to her, by taking others through the exact same process that she went through, where she was trying to figure out over and over and over again what they could do, what they could work out, how they could express themselves uniquely. And as soon as she does that, she has this connection with the CMC, and she joins their mastermind, she joins their being, and they understand that they, together, they're fun, they go hand in hand, whether or not, one of them or the other one is there or not, and they can separate by thousands and thousands and thousands of miles, yet they're still connected at heart and have the same principles and underlying strategies and mindsets for growth, of both like their own exploration, but kind of more importantly, they really, really, really care about the growth of others and the development of others. And that's exactly what Gabby focuses on as she does her work as a male pony. It's a little bit more important than that, because she's focusing on the other person, right? And she has this correct overarching growth mindset. It sets her up for massive, massive levels of success, because she looks past the impossible and does what she wants to do. So powerful. She goes so hard that there is no option for her but to succeed, and she absolutely freaking crushes it as she gets into the marketplace, starts to produce these results and do exactly what she can to be herself and to move on and forth and grow and succeed to at the point where she goes home, and as she goes home, she is like the only person who has this friendship, this growth, this connection with herself and with others. She tends to spread it over time, because it starts out small, but it compounds and it compounds and it compounds and it compounds, and the power and the strength and the impact that she has will grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. And that all starts out in this one, which is awesome. So you want to make an investment, right? Make an investment in friends, make a friendship investment, invest your time, energy into a relationship that will add on to your existing social group. And then the instant that you do that, that's something that will pay dividends for literally decades to come, because she's always going to be part of it. She's indoctrinated into their way of being, their way of life, their way of living and spreading with others. And so that's someone that they can stick with and be friends with the rest of their life. And all they have to do is invest a little bit of time at the beginning here to build this relationship asset with each other. And then once it's done, these guys are going to be connected for the rest of their life, and they're constantly doing work for one another, which is super powerful. That sounds awesome, right? Alright, awesome. Okay, so Viva Las Pegasus. So Flim Flam, they're coming back again, and this time there's a little bit of a interesting problem. So Twilight, everyone goes, the main six go to this big casino in Las Vegas, and in this casino, it's run by this big boss guy, and see, this guy's probably super cool, and he runs this whole hotel. But as they get to this hotel, they start to realize that something's weird or something's up, because what happens is Flim and Flam, they're arguing with each other, and they've been separated, and sort of destroyed and beaten down, and they aren't actually working together, which is like super weird, right? Because Slim and Flam, I mean, they're like, we're supposed to be so close, and they've always been so close. And so the main six, they start to investigate, they start to figure out, okay, well, what's really going on here? Why are these two guys, who are supposed to be like the closest people on the planet, somehow drifting apart from each other? Which is a bad situation to be in, especially like when they care so much about each other. And kind of more importantly is like, they work really well with each other and have tremendous impact in output and significance when they work as a team. But for some reason, they've been cut, and nobody can really figure out why. And it's such a weird thing because as a group, they're so much more effective than they are alone. And it makes so much logical sense for them to stay as a team, but they've been forced apart. That's what Twilight and the main six really want to try to figure out, what's going on. And so they go to the hotel and they follow around sort of the leader guy, right? Boss. And what's interesting is they see this guy go on mind people's backs, and he has tons and tons of performers that work with them and for him. And like not just from the clan, like he's got acrobats, he's got dancers, I mean everyone. And everyone like loves him, right? Like he's supposed to be like the coolest guy ever, and everybody has a great time with him. But like they'll go and he'll tell one group of ponies like one thing, and then he'll tell another group another thing. And what they realize is he's telling truths to some people and different truths to other people. Or sometimes he just lies, just straight up lies to people. And he's trying to get them to turn against each other, to argue with each other. Because for him, he doesn't want them to get too good, or he fears that they'll like leave his resort and go open their own thing, or he'll have to pay them more. And so he's got like this selfish motive to keep the productivity down and to keep them arguing, so they'll keep coming back over and over again to his resort to do what he wants them. He wants them to have like the best shows possible, and he's got like actresses and dancers, because there are tons of people that like go to all of his resorts and they're super happy with them. And all of this is really based on like all this entertainment, all this happiness. It stems from his internal greed of like being the biggest guy ever, never having to worry about competition or fighting with other people. And he does that by sowing in like fear, right? And doubt, and anger with the people that work for him. It's just not the way that you want to treat your staff, right? Because he's so scared that they're going to go and work for someone else or leave or do their own thing, that he like tries to always have them in a constant state of struggle and decay, so that they can't actually go and be like they can't work together, right, to try to take over or do their own thing, which is a terrible place to be. Like you never, ever want to draw apart friendships, draw apart relationships, draw apart. It's just awful, because remember, like they're always going to be so much more effective together than they are alone, and you cannot be afraid to let people fly, to let people do their best, to let people go as hard as they can, to try new things, for sake that they might lead you, because that's just bogus, right? It's insane. You gotta let people do what they need to do to have the success they want and to work for you in the best way possible. And the biggest impact that they see fit, or that they have the ability to perform with, right? And so, like for the first time in the season, Applejack and the main six, like they feel bad for Simpsons or for Flim and Flam, because they know that they've been manipulated and they've been taken control of for the sake of like a greedy man trying to stay at the top, not like for him wanting to help the ponies and help give them a good time and share the quality of life. Like he's literally lying to them and trying to turn them against one another so that they'll just work on the magic and then go home and leave, right? And it's so sad, because you realize that like this guy is manipulating everybody, not for positivity, right? But because of this fear and anger. And so they understand that it's for all the wrong reasons. he rules the way he does, right? And he destroys his friendships the way he does, which is awful, 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 awful. And for them to have success, and for him to be happy, and for the people that work for him to be happy, and to sort of fix all the problems that he's already caused with everybody that's working for him, they've got to step back. They have to walk away from the work they've been doing. They have to walk away from him. They have to walk away from the casino, and all the actors, all the events. And they have to say, look, they see him as an entertainer, right? As an entertainer, like, it's super, super important that he has his team, right? His power base and his connections that are gonna, run essentially like his whole report, his whole like casino. But you cannot force people into their roles. You cannot force people to do what he wants. He's got to be nice to them. He's got to be kind to them, because that kindness is worth so much more than any equivalent amount of force or lying or stealing. And so, just not a reliable way for them to grow and to connect with each other over time. And it does not work. It falls apart and it shreds. And they get into his office and they broadcast to like everybody in the hotel, the casino. They broadcast to everyone in the resort. Him giving this whole giant monologue about how he's going to take over, the strip, and kind of more importantly, how he'll like destroy other people and crush them to get what he wants. And everyone hears this that works for him, and then that goes to his resort. They realize like this is not a good guy. This is someone who puts like profits above people, which is just like not the greatest thing ever, especially if you're in like the human management business, if you're in the casino business, and it destroys his reputation. And makes everyone hate him, right? And everyone leaves. And like when you focus on what you don't want to happen, like it happens, right? So all of his best employees, they all leave. And they all go out to do their own things, and it crushes his business and what he loves to do, because he just wasn't able to manage it with happiness and joy, and to use like the wrong way. So make sure for sure 100% that you maintain your relationship, not with anger or lust or lies, with happiness and joy and total tranquility, which is super, 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 super cool. Awesome. Okay, every little thing she does. So ask Starlight to spend some time with the main six, right? And she goes to the castle, and they've got like this huge castle, and there's so many things to do. And she wants to spend time with each of her friends and do things with them. The problem is like it's only like a couple of days, and she's like super busy, and so because of that, she doesn't have like all the time in the world to be with them. And so what she does is she gets them all together, bless Twilight, and she casts like this huge spell. And this spell like basically like is a mind control spell. And by using like force and using this magic that is really, really, really crazy, what she's done is basically take control over their bodies and what they do, right? And so she brings them into this big, huge room and says, she like gives them all commands on what to do. She tries to tell them like what she thinks is the best thing for friends to do with her, so that she can have experiences with all of them like at the same time, very, very, very quickly. And she totally misses the point. This idea that like you can't systemize friendship, or you can't just like force fun together as a team onto people or onto their work, especially with like your magic. It's just not a good idea. It will not work. And so because of that, she comes back to like Cinder, and she sends everybody off to go do like their own things. So she tells Pinky to go bake, and Applejack to go do like scrapbook, and Rarity to make dresses. But try to get animals, all the animals in the castle. And Rainbow Dash just flying. fly, run. And they go out to do, what they've been told to do, because all they know is what they're told. And because, they can only do what they know, they start to have some serious problems, right? So, she can only manage, one person at a time, can only really follow around one of the ponies at a time. So Starlight starts out with Pinky, right? They start out with Pinky, but then she goes and she wants to work with Applejack. She starts out with Scrapbook. And she wants to work with Rarity. She just goes back and forth between the other ones. And she splits up her attention just because there's a lot of people, right? And she's unable to do what needs to be done. She can't just focus on everything and have these connections at their maximum potential. Instead, it gets crushed, right? And she's working on a one-on-one thing, and it's very, ineffective, right? Which is just a shame, but it kind of crushes her opportunity to do the work that she wants to, and it makes all of them go out on their own and do what they think she wants, because there just isn't quality management. And at the same time, the spell she has totally destroyed their ability to make decisions with common sense and just be rational people, because they're only doing what she wants. And so often people are oh, I wish everyone would do what I want, but in reality it's not the best situation, because she's not able to have her friends out there doing what actually works for them and making common decisions, common mistakes, right? And then overcoming them and moving to the next step. And if you just turn them into human robots, right, that they collect all the spiders in the castle and make this huge mess of just spiders and scorpions everywhere. It's disgusting, all over the place. And then she in our kitchen, it explodes and there's just cake coming out everywhere. There's so much, a huge mess. She makes hundreds and thousands of cupcakes. They just explode everywhere. It's the same thing with Rainbow. She flies all over the place. It makes a huge mess. You see it with Rainbow Dash. She makes so many dresses. They literally start to flood the castle, and there's animals everywhere, and there's crap all over the place. Make a huge mess. Why? Because she was supposed to connect with these five and have fun with them, do things with them they care about. What she does, she takes a shortcut. It's the moment you do, everything crashes down, and it all ends, right? And so it's a terrible place to be in. And so she has to get over that and say, okay, you know what? Not a big deal. Let's go to the next stage, right? Let's move forward as a group. And she needs to do it the right way. She needs to take that temporary pain of putting in all the time and effort with each and every one of them. It'll take a little bit extra time. It'll take a little bit of extra effort. But if she can just put in what needs to be done and take the time to do it right the first time, everything becomes so much more effective, and she has such better relationships with all of these ponies, because fundamentally she can't just do everything with all of them at once. It's got to be one, or a group thing. But for her, she doesn't do group things. She just does what they love. And when you do what they love, you got to be attentive, and you got to be connected, and you have to be in the zone with them, right? It's the most important factor of doing literally anything with those that you care about and you want to tell her about. And it's this idea of being present and being in the now. And it's talking about so much in the Power Now, but this idea, you are here and you're only here for whatever the event you're working with is. And for Starlight, she just fails that test. And she tries to split her attention. You cannot split your attention. You've got to be all in on whatever the event is right now, so you can have the biggest impact possible, which is so powerful. And that's really the goal here with every little thing she does, which is super cool. Okay, awesome. So the pony point of view. So this is really big, and it's all about this idea of, what perspective are you looking at, and what's really going on. And so, Applejack, Rarity, and Pinky, they all get on this boat, okay? And on this boat, they have a huge sailing trip. They go into the ocean, they're having a grand old time. But a slight problem happens after the trip starts. And the little challenge is that like their boat like gets tipped over and capsizes, and then they all kind of like fall into the ocean and have to come back home, and it's like really, really bad. And so the story is kind of told from like, them coming home and they're looking at the past and talking about what happened on this boat, when it sank, right? What's interesting is that from each of the points of view, it's somebody else's fault, of course, right? Like it's never your fault, blah, blah, blah. Like you will over and over and over and over again, people will change their stories, their details, their facts about what actually happens in some kind of situation so that like it serves them, right? It's this idea of like the self-serving bias and change the facts so that it sounds better for you, which is like totally normal, and that's exactly what happens. So Twilight comes in. Twilight listens to everything that they say and tries to figure out, well, what like really happened, because she doesn't know. She's like this unbiased, neutral third party, right? And it's her goal to actually get to the bottom of this and figure out what went wrong on this giant ship. And what's cool is like they all have like certain aspects of their stories and certain elements that kind of recur in and out of everything that they're doing over and over and over again. And so like early on, right, Twilight, she realizes that everybody says they have like cucumber sandwiches, and they all left the port, tried to have this huge party, and everyone's having fun. But the problem is, like, there's differences between the stories as they move forward, right? So some people say, like, Pinkie Pie threw like this giant party and tried to have this huge piñata, and like mess up with the boat, and take the map, right? They were supposed to use to navigate through the storm. Of course, Pinkie Pie, she doesn't think that she did that. She thinks that she was the best ever, right? She thinks that she should have saved everybody, and that Rarity made a mistake, and Rarity hurt everyone, and Rarity took the map and wasn't helping anybody, and it just goes back and forth, bickering and arguing, right? This idea that like argument is so detrimental to progression. Yet that's like exactly what she focuses on. She focuses on arguing and saying, well, what went wrong here? And just destroying really the faith and the friendship and the background that they have together. It just crumbles and crumbles and crumbles away as they go through these different versions of the story, where like they paint each other such a negative light. This idea, with Applejack, with the dog. She talks about how everyone was running to get on board, and there were like tons and tons of people calling Rarity and taking pictures and paparazzi and all this stuff. And they paint each other as these negative images, and it sucks because like the connections and the bonds, they're so strong here that brought them on this huge trip in the first place start to fade away, start to get broken down, and start to hurt each other over and over and over again. They don't have proper sphere of influence, and it just destroys their ability to succeed, their ability to be one with one another and have the connections that they desire, which is so crucial. And yet for these guys, it's right there, right? Like they're so close, and they know that all they have to do is be with each other. But for the main sex, or for these three, they keep looking at it, from their own filter point of view, right? And they're looking at, what they want and what they think happened and how they saw themselves in the past. And it just does not work. They like talked about how they all see like the exact same situation, and each of them have different explanation of like how the cucumber sandwiches fell overboard, right? So they had, these cucumber sandwiches, and everybody says that they fell overboard, but nobody can agree on why or how or what really happened. And so like this idea that like you're in this group situation, it's gonna be bias and perspective, it's gonna be bias and point of view, and like you've got to take a moment to step back, look at what's going on, and figure out how you can have the biggest impact right now on what's the world around you, right? And for these guys, like they have to make a decision to shift away from, themselves and focus on like the actual facts. And the person who makes the decision is Twilight, right? And so Twilight takes that adult view, takes that third world eye, and looks at it and says, look, this is not right. This is what's going on here, and it's just not good for anybody, right? Bad situation, bad place to work through, and she has to basically play like referee for these guys, which is awful, because you don't want to have these arguments that escalate, and then not be able to agree on what's up and what's going on. Because the instant that happens, which is what happens here, like super early on, all of a sudden, like this friendship starts to corrode, starts to break away, and for good reason. Right? Like all of them, like wrecked their ship, fell into the ocean, and it's a bad situation to be in. But they got to stand up. They've got to power through. They got to have their internal drive, push them to that next level of success, and kind of push them to get over this issue and move on to the next level, or the next thing they want to do with their lives, right? Because I mean, it's just a freaking like little vacation, little trip on their ship, and it gets knocked over by this huge sea monster. Because no matter like whose fault, it doesn't matter, whose fault it is. It's irrelevant. It's their group, right? And the group failed, and what they have to recognize is this idea that like it's not just one person; it's the collective. It's everyone together. And it doesn't matter like who started the progress or who started going through this trip. That they're all in it together, and they're all part of this society, right? And so they have to cut away the crap that just doesn't matter, doesn't work, and instead work toward this huge overarching future growth. They can have really like the impact they desire and the changes that they desire. And their whole lives, everything stems from their ability to be with each other. And here, they're starting to break away, starting to destroy. And so that's why they have trouble. That's why there's this huge problem when they can't connect with one another. They don't have, this mediator, right? So like Twilight is so crucial because she steps in and she shows them that there's another way, there's a better way. She has this outside neutral perspective. And so because of that, she's able to much better, understand what's going on through their minds. And instead of like focus on arguing or focus on trying to figure out who's the worst and whose fault it is, she just wants to get down to the facts to figure out what actually went on. Because that's sort of like all that matters to her, and it's all that should matter to these ponies, right? So a lot of times you just need to take that outside insight, that outside influence, and like weigh all your chips on it. Because so often, like, you can just get someone else's opinion. It'll change absolutely everything in the way that you perceive yourself, and sort of more importantly, the world around you, because they see stuff they just are blinded by because of the emotional heat that they're in right now, whereas Twilight is looking at it as a purely logical play. So always kind of be there and watching out for emotions that can cloud your vision, emotions that can cloud your logic, your judgment. Because, especially like financial markets, those emotions can absolutely crush you, just like it crushes these three as they argue about whose fault it is. And you don't want to be in that situation. You want to be in a situation with clear and complete mental focus and clarity. You want to use that tool to have massive growth and impact and really do, whatever it is you want to do to succeed. It's like super.